Thanks so much, Phil. Good evening, everyone. My name is Curtis Johnson. I'm an alcoholic. Certainly great to be here and great to be sober. And by the grace of a very loving God, the Fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous, and you people, I have not found it necessary to consume any form of alcohol or take any mind-altering substance since March 16th, 2015. And for that, I'm totally grateful. I've also learned throughout this program that gratitude has to transmit itself into more than a word or a feeling. It has to transmit itself into rigorous action of giving back to you people what you've given so truly and freely to me, and the hope that you've given me and the life that I have today, contingent on the daily maintenance of my spiritual conditioning, is a phenomenal thing, and I'm thankful for that, and I'm thankful for AA. And I want to thank Phil, first of all, and I met Phil probably 16, 17 months ago. We were talking the meeting before the meeting tonight about this whole Zoom format, and I think it's been the biggest blessing in the world for AA, and I truly believe things happen in God's world not by mistake. It was recorded in the book. It was in the 4th edition, the last page of the forward of it, talking about one day when the computers will become part of this thing. And when COVID hit and we were all struck with, now what are we going to do? We came to the rise, and we jumped on a Zoom format. We went worldwide, and it's truly amazing to me because most of the people on this meeting right here, I've got a few friends from Louisville that I know personally, but I've never had the opportunity to sit down with many of you, but there's many of you that I know personally from spending nights together through this COVID battle, this battle of life, where we discussed what got us here and why we're here and the blessings that we've been given through this program of Alcoholics Anonymous and being the people that we are today. And I truly believe that we've been handpicked by the loving grace of a God, powered by far greater than ourselves, to be here tonight. And, it's a wonderful thing. And when Phil called me, he didn't tell me the date. He said, "I'd like you to read. Here's the dates that are available." And he said the 25th of December. And I said right away, okay. And I hadn't asked my wife. I didn't know where the family was going to be, but it really didn't matter because when the hand of AA comes calling, we are there. That's what got me into these rooms at the age of 56. Now, I said my sobriety date was March 16th, 2015. That's not my first sobriety date. My first sobriety date was actually in August of 2009. At the age of 56, I rolled into the gutter of the men's healing place here in Louisville, Kentucky, completely broke, in the gutter and done with the disease of alcoholism that had captured me, taken me away from the things I love, my family, my friends, myself. And I didn't know why. But it was really the greatest gift I probably ever had, and it's the disease of alcoholism, the physical nature anyway. You know, the part that when you start drinking and you can't stop. And you drink because you cover up the lies that you just lied about, that you forgot you lied about, and you lie about them again, and then you got to lie again. You know, and that was the disease, the chronic problem that we were involved with. We were never content. Most human beings are never content with who they are. We live on fear, hate, and illusion. Concepts of thought, many of them are things that haven't even happened yet, and we waste our time. And today I've learned that that's wasting precious time that God has given for me, to me personally, from within my own self-being, to maybe help somebody, and that somebody just might be me. So I'm thankful for being here with you guys tonight. There's nothing better than a Christmas. I was elated to be able to share on Christmas Day, Christmas Eve. It doesn't matter. I've learned Christmas is every day. The real meaning of Christmas is in Christianity anyway, but if you get to the Buddha or you get to the other mystics or spiritual teachers, they'll talk about it's the realization of a power within your own self. Big Book talks about that. We have a phenomenal book, this Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. It's to the point, but it's very plain and simple for drunks like us to understand, for me anyway, because I'm a brilliant person. You know, I told you I didn't come into the rooms until I was at 56 years old in 2009. Well, I got sober from June 1986 until August 1994. Well, I was in federal custody, the Federal Bureau of Prisons, because I was flying things into the United States of America that I wasn't supposed to be flying. And you would have thought that maybe a lesson was learned there, but I didn't know. But it was a direct result of alcoholism. It was never being content with whatever I had. If I had $1,000, I needed 5,000. If I had 5,000, I needed 100. If I had 100, I needed a million. If I had a million, I needed 10 million. And I was involved with a big thing. I was famous. I mean, there was my good friend, the head of U.S. Customs out of Port St. Lucie, a couple of U.S. senators, a bunch of politicians. Everybody got to go to jail together. It was fantastic. But it wasn't that way for my wife of almost 39 years now, and my daughter that was just born. And I didn't think about what I was doing to them, doing what I was doing for supposedly us. But it was the self-centeredness, it was the ego, it's what alcoholism was about. The need to drink, the need to not be outside of my own self, because I didn't know really how important this life is today. But at the age of next month, on January 23rd, I'll be 69 years old. Health issues, I get a new knee this coming Wednesday. Last December 18th, I got a new right knee, and my left knee was so jealous of my new right knee last year, it decided to go bad. So they're going to give me a new left knee here next week. So I have two bionic new knees, and hopefully nothing else will go wrong, but that's all right too. You know, and we go through different things in life, and we go through health issues and this and that. But I have to tell you, until I came into the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, I had no clue how beautiful life can be today. No matter what we're experiencing, no matter what we're going through, we've been given a gift. And tonight I'm going to talk about a gift of hope for each and every one of us. Because I truly believe, as the fellow that I follow out of Albuquerque, New Mexico, Father Richard Rohr, says, we've been handpicked, the alcoholic. We've been handpicked by a power greater than ourselves to understand where that power resides, that I truly believe is within. What Christmas talks about, and I truly believe that we're to give it away in order to understand why we're here. So again, my name is Curtis Johnson, and I'm an alcoholic. And wow, what a night to be able to have this opportunity to speak. I'm a talker, and I used to sell bullshit to the bullshitters. Excuse my language, but I like to give truth to the truth seekers today. And it's just a wonderful, wonderful thing. My sponsor's Tim Highland here in Louisville, Kentucky, and my grand sponsor and one of my best friends in life is a fellow by the name of Don Major. And I couldn't have asked for two of the most gifted men in the world to be those people so important to me in my life today. And those men never told me what to do. They said, come on, Curtis, follow me. I'll show you. I'll show you how to get there. Just like the fellow we celebrated the birth of this morning, or today. He never told anybody what to do. I think he said a few centuries ago, he said, there's only two things that you really need to do in life. One is to trust and believe in God with all your mind, heart, soul, and strength. And the other is to help your neighbor as you want them to help you in time of need. Isn't that the program of Alcoholics Anonymous? Is that not why we're here? And then we get to be part of this Zoom meeting or this Zoom format. And I've got my friend Darren from Tennessee and all these people that I know on this screen. Those that I don't know, I'm going to get to know. An opportunity to be personal friends, to share in the pain and suffering of life and the experiences that help each other to survive one more day and then to help somebody else. I always say when I speak, I don't ever remember this conversation talking about being a better person or working with somebody sitting in the bar or on the golf course with the guys. It was all about money, property, prestige, and boy, does she look good. It's not that way today. It has no merit in my life, and it has no sense. It's not where I get that love and the tolerance that I have. My grand sponsor says these two words are the most important words we are to live by today, and it's called persistent courtesy. Persistent courtesy means that I accept whatever or whoever you are, and then I do not retaliate the way I want to think or I want to feel. Because if we go back in the big book, even in the beginning where Dr. Silkworth talked about we needed this psychic change, a spiritual awakening, it's a 180-degree thought of thinking, change of your thinking and your thought process. So if I want to go right, I had to learn how to go left, because right didn't work. And sometimes I'll get to a situation and I'll go in and I'll say, God, give me a hand here. I need some help. I want to go right. And he said, no, Curtis, you just show me which way to go. And I'll say, God, no, I need your advice here. I need your advice. Show me where to go. And he said, I want you to show me. And I'll go left and boom, hit the wall. And he'll kind of chuckle and he'll say, Curtis, next time you're going to go right. But that's how we learn in life. Life can't be all bright light, but the bright light can't be bright until we experience the darkness. And we all on this screen, somewhere in our life, have hit that bottom darkness. But there's darkness to come throughout our journey. This journey goes on and on and on and on. Page 63 in the big book, Bill Wilson, a drunk, talks about where we will begin to lose fear of today, tomorrow, and the hereafter. We were reborn. Wait a second, this is a drunk and alcoholic talking about after death. And I truly believe that it goes way beyond this. I follow a lot of mystics. I follow a lot of different spiritual teachers, Father Richard Rohr being the best, the Carl Jungs, the Meister Eckharts, the Buddhas, all of them. They're all spiritual teachers that have their way of diving and going into the same thing that I'm talking about. And I'm talking about the moment that we're in right now, right here tonight at this very moment. Do you know that you cannot make an error in the now or at this moment? Does not our 11th step talk about working to attain a conscious contact with God in God's presence? And the only time that we can attain God's presence is the moment that we're in now. I'm going to tell you the greatest thing that AA has done to a brilliant man like me. You guys slowed my thinking down. You've slowed me down enough to be love and tolerance to everyone and everything. We ceased fighting. The big book talks about that. That big book is a treasure map. It's the map of all maps to me. I've read a lot of maps, been in a lot of different situations, been in the jungles all over. I've done it all. There's not been a better map with a better treasure chest that I've ever found than the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. And for that, I'm grateful for. And that's why I'm here today. I was born in a little mountain town in Missoula, Montana in 1953 from Janet and Richard Johnson, two wonderful people. My dad was a Grizz. He was a University of Montana basketball player at the time. My mom worked in a law office. I'm the oldest of three kids. I've got one daughter or sister 5 years younger than me. And Jory Lynn is 9 years younger than me. And, I was born while my dad was in his junior year of college, and he went on to play 2 years of semi-pro basketball with the Minneapolis Lakers, with George Mikan and a couple other guys. I forget who that was. And long story short, my dad was a very successful businessman coming out of college. Even he went with Beneficial Life Insurance Company. We moved 9 times. We moved from Missoula, Montana to Helena, to Dallas, back to Helena, to Tanner's Lake, Minnesota, to Cleveland, Ohio, back to White Bear Lake, Minnesota, and then down into Long Beach, California in 1964. So I always had to learn how to adapt to the situation. So I was adaptable to anything I had to do, because if you're a kid, and any of you know how we are as kids are, if you don't adapt to the situation, they either shun you off or then they'll make fun of you. Well, you know, and I didn't want to be a part of that. So whatever it was, I had to be a part of. When I landed in Long Beach, California in 1964, that was something else. I'd come from a very good background, wonderful people. I mean, we ate dinner at 5 o'clock every day, 5:30 every day. You had to be there. The kids didn't talk. Mom and dad did until after there. We went to mass every Sunday. We went to church, and we believed in God. The God that I didn't know or I didn't understand, but I believed, and I knew that there was something greater than myself. But then growing up as a kid, I was always in this position to where I was always looking for something. I was looking for that high. I was just looking for it. You know, most people are like that. The human beings always searching and looking for something, and we never seem to find it. Sandy Beach talked about that in one of his talks. He said, all we're doing is searching for God. Whether you're drinking or you're drugging or just our thinking. See, our thinking is our biggest problem. Everything that goes on between these ears has to be a generated thought. In fact, I'll tell you something that I've learned here, and I here recently, that within 30 seconds of listening to somebody, you've already made your decision whether you like them or you don't like them, or you don't believe them or you don't believe them, or whatever. But my grand sponsor, Don Major, who is, he's the gift of one of the gifts of my life, will sit there and tell you, you just listen, and make, make statement, or you don't make response. You just listen. Because once we begin to do that, we begin to understand the other human being, the other individual. We're all God's children. There's not two of us that can think of the same, and there's not two of us that are the same. My wife says that all the time. My wife says, it's a good thing, Curtis, if God didn't make two of you. And then she laughs. And I kind of chuckle and laugh with her. But it's the truth. There's not two of us that can think the same. And every day is a different event, no matter what we're doing, because we've never experienced it before. My sponsor, I'll tell a quick story before I get back into my story. A few months ago, my sponsor, into COVID, Tim and Don both speak every two, these guys are circuit speakers that'll go out 2-3 times a month. Well, when COVID started, they were speaking 4 or 5 times a week. And they're going, oh my gosh, what's going on? What is this stuff? I'd be there for them to listen, and I'd be there for them to listen. And Tim finally says to me, why do you keep coming to my meetings? You've already heard my story 50 times, Curtis. I said, I hadn't heard it today, Tim, right? He goes, yeah, you're right. Because I might hear something that I didn't know today. Kind of like reading the big book. I don't know about you all, but when I read the big book, I can read it today and I can read the same page tomorrow and see something different. Because I've got a completely new mindset for today as opposed to what was yesterday. It's not that we might not recognize something, but it's a new event. It's a new moment. So this is what I'm getting to. As a kid growing up, I was searching for that. So as a young kid in Southern California, you land down there from the upper Midwest in White Bear Lake, Minnesota. Now you're down at the beach, and your dad's up on Wilshire Boulevard in LA. And your neighbor boys say, see if your mom will take us down to Seal Beach, Curtis. And this is like 2 miles or 2.5 miles from Seal Beach. And so my mom, who was an angel in her own self, I said, Mom, would you give us a ride down to the beach? And she takes us to the beach, drops us off at the pier. We walk down the pier, and this is in '64, and there's this, they called them head shops back then, and they were playing it was called Strawberry Fields, and the Beatles were playing, and the girls had tie-dye dresses, long hair, no bras on. The guys had long hair, incense, and they were smoking something. I didn't know what it was, and I said, what are they doing? Oh, they're smoking pot. These kids knew. I didn't know anything about it. I said, well, they look like they're having fun. They said, oh yeah, that's going to be fun. So, I was going to give in to whatever it was, even that young. But my drinking really didn't start until probably around 9th grade. I had my first glass of wine or whatever. I have no alcoholism in my family. Nobody, my father would drink beer or wine after at business meetings or whatever. My mom didn't drink, and which was unusual for Catholics, because most of the time us Catholics, we like to drink a lot. I mean, you've got baptisms, you've got funerals, you've got a lot of things you got to drink it. And fish fries, that's always a good event. It doesn't matter, but we didn't. And so I was always searching for that thing. And then by the time I get into high school, but I had one event throughout my early life that I took a big resentment against my father, because my father was a big athlete. He wanted me too to be an athlete, and I was an athlete, but he made me go to bed at 9 o'clock, and 9 o'clock every night till I got into 10th grade in high school in Southern California. Kids would be outside playing. It was still light out. He had me in bed, so I did not like my dad. My dad told me to go right, I would go left just to kick him off. Funny that happened, because I have a young daughter. She's 34 right now, Natalie Marie, that has two of the greatest grandkids in the world, and she's our only child. And she too took after me the same way. If I told Natalie Marie to go right, she went left just to tick me off. I guess so. Turnabout is fair play. The thing of it was I began the disease of alcoholism mentally before alcoholism, even the physical nature, even got to me. I was always searching for something, never content, always out to looking for something better. I could never be okay with what or who I was. And then by the time you get to high school, and then there's that girl thing, and oh my gosh, I was afraid to talk to girls, but I was an athlete. And I remember as soon as they got me 2 1/4 or 2.5 16-ounce cans of Colt 45 stout malt liquor in me, I was good to go. They were all available, and boy did I start having fun. So my drinking really began in high school, on the weekends only, and never during the season. I played basketball. I was a good athlete. I played high school basketball. I played in my junior year in high school. We won the California Large School, CIF Large School Federation Basketball Championships out of Southern California. Robert A. Millikan High School. I was the seventh man. Played against Jamal Wilkes, Donnie Ford, that were both Lakers. They were at Santa Barbara. Played against Bill Walton out of San Diego Helix. Played against them all. I was a little guy, 5'9.5", but I was a thief. I could steal the ball. And I could steal anything you had too if I needed it. It's the way I was. It really was. It was unbelievable once the disease really took over. But then after high school and my senior year, we got to the semifinals of the state championship, and I was going to go play basketball for Lute Olson, fellow that was Huntington Beach High School's basketball coach. He became a famous NCAA coach. He went from Huntington Beach High School to Long Beach City College to Iowa, and then to Arizona. My dad was a personal friend of his. I have to step back just a minute. My father was only down in Southern California 1 year, and he left Beneficial Life Insurance Company and was recruited with another fellow by the name of Ralph Sweat to go to LA Times Mirror and begin cable television in the United States. So my father was one of the first two people that started cable in the country. So I came from an educational, a good family that cared about their son, and they cared about the family. But you know, each and every one of us is different, and we've got our own way and our own journey. This is what it was about. So, you know, I didn't like my father. My dad would always tell me what to do, and I didn't want people telling me what to do. And as a kid, I guess you can merit that. Okay. I kept telling my daughter what to do, and she didn't like what I told her what to do, but she had a reason not to do. And I'll get to that in a little bit. But once I got into my senior year, I decided I wasn't going to play basketball. I was just going to tick my dad off. And I did that. But I picked up tennis, and I got really good at tennis. Played tennis for a couple of years in Southern Cal at Long Beach City College, and then went off to University of Wisconsin, and not a good place for a drunk to go to school. 4 bars on every corner, drink before mass on Sunday sometimes. You know, it really didn't matter. And a party was on. Girls, and a party. Able to get a marketing degree, business. You know, I've always been good in whatever I've done. Doesn't matter what, when, why, or how, but never content with whatever I got to. Stayed up in Wisconsin for a few years teaching tennis. Met some wonderful people, had a great time. Then got a call around end of 1989, going into 1990. Or I'm set 79, 1980. I'm way ahead. And I had a friend call me and said, Curtis, I got a great job for you. I said, what's that, Bill? And he said, come on down to Daytona Beach, Florida, and work with us. I said, I'm not going to Florida. Wait, I got to get back to Southern California. That's where I grew up. I surfed. I was a good surfer. I loved the beach. I liked going to Mexico before Mexico was developed. I snow skied. I did it all. And he said, no, you need to come down here to Florida. He said, I got this great job for you. I said, there's no job in Florida that I'll go down to get to. He says, oh, yeah, there is. I said, you'll have to sell me on this one. And he said, well, let me tell you a story. He said, starting sometime at the end of January, February, there was a thing called Bike Week. And Bike Week comes, and after Bike Week comes the Daytona 500. And after the Daytona 500, there's a thing called Spring Break, and there'll be 250,000 little fresh college girls that are going to come down there and get a suntan. And you're going to go to work for a guy by the name of Ron Rice and Dave Hampton. They had 2 suntan lotion companies. One was Hawaiian Tropic Suntan Products. The other was Sun Solution Suntan Products. And you're going to show these girls how to put the suntan lotion on. I said, I'll be down next week. And I made the journey down to Florida. My sponsor, still to the day, Tim will say, Curtis, tell the story. It's the greatest story a young man could ever have. And it really was, because you're down there, and I got into the resort management business and resort work. And now I'm in Daytona Beach, Florida, and you've got 36 pool decks. And, you know, Bike Week came, it was unreal. 500 came, it was unreal. And then the girls came. And, you know, I was in charge of 36 pool decks, and you've got boys and girls out there selling suntan lotion on the pool decks, and you've got to supply them with the lotion. We had pool contracts with all these hotels, and we still do. They still do today in order to market their product lines. And you didn't want them to get burnt. These poor little girls had come out on the pool deck, and there'd be 4 or 5 of them together. They never traveled alone, but they left their boyfriends at home. That was the good part. Here I'm a young single guy in my mid to late 20s, and this was unbelievable. This was like a candy store for a young man. And not only are they down here on vacation, but now they can drink, because they were drinking in Daytona, I think at 18 at that time. I was 21. And you get their poor little arm, and you tell them you always want to have a person of the opposite sex apply the suntan lotion, because it decreases sexual tension. The pores open up, the lotion will go in, and you won't get burnt. And then your eyes just drop, and then you tell them, I'll meet you at PJ's at the bar at happy hour at 4:30, and you've got girls for the rest of the week. And they get on the bus, and they're in the car, and they go home. Next week the same thing's going on. And this was unreal for me, because I'm making not only a ton of money, I'm having fun, drinking all the time, but this just kept going on. And then finally that last week, I was standing with, and I can remember it to the day, with a friend of mine, Joey Manchese. His dad was from Detroit. His dad owned 6 of the, I think either 4 or 6 of the hotels that we had. He would hang out with me because he knew I was one of the bosses. He called me and he said he knew I could always get all the girls. And he said he were standing there, and these 2 beautiful girls came walking out on the pool deck. They must have been to the suntan huts or something before, because they had some sun on them and long brown hair. And I looked at Joey and I said, Joe, which one do you want? He said, well, I'll take the one on the left. I said, dang, that's kind of the one I wanted. I'll take the one on the right. I guess that's okay. And when the girls walked up to us, I said to them, I said, ladies, where are you from? And they said, Kentucky. And I said, where? I'd never heard that dialect. They said, Louisville, Kentucky. I fell to my knees. Well, regardless of that fact, in April 30th of 1983, I married that young lady. Her name's Tina Johnson, still to the day. The greatest gift I've ever been had in a human being, that I sent through hell a couple times. And that was pretty unreal, because we dated by air for the next year and a half, almost 2 years, while she was finishing her college education at the University of Louisville Speed School. And we became very close and very good. And finally, on that last day, I had been transferred out of Daytona and sent down into Miami. This was in early 1981. I was into the Caribbean, handling that area down into Miami, Florida. And had the Fontainebleau Hilton and all these big Sheraton Bell Harbor and all these big resort pool decks, and all it is this big money game, and making all this money in resort business, and drinking every day, and just enjoying life and having a ball, staying true to my lady at this time, still to the day. And she called when she had gotten done with her last class, and she said, I'll be down next week. And I said, well, honey, I said, how much was the ticket? Let me send you the money. And she would fly Delta. And she said, $160. And I said, well, it can't be $160. She said, it's one way. And we didn't have cell phones then. It was a phone booth, and I was standing with my best man in the wedding, and I hit my knees. I fell to the ground. I said, oh my gosh, she's on her way one way. Well, I had the ring ready when she got there. A year after that, we got married up in Louisville, Kentucky, and had a phenomenal wedding. And my life was really good as we lived down in Miami. Now, she was the baby of a family of 5, 3 big brothers, a sister, and a mom and dad that did not like me. They stole the baby. And her education, she went to school down there. She's a brilliant, unbelievable person, right, still to the day. But we had gotten married and live in the limelight of South Florida at that time. And I got involved with some people. And, when you start taking flight lessons, and you get involved in DEA auctions and buying aircraft from different government ventures, and then you're in the middle of stuff going on in South Florida. I got out of the suntan lotion business. I was working for a big law firm in Miami. And you knew all the federal judges, all the state judges, everybody and everything, and everybody wanted in on that game. And I got in that game. And in June of 1986, it all came crashing down. Never got caught what we were doing, but it was a big thing. It was I became famous, and not famous for the things that you wanted to do. And I didn't think about my wife or my daughter, who was just born that November of 1987, when I entered federal prison for a 96-month prison sentence. to leave my wife and my daughter, who still to the day love me to the death, and that will tell you, both of them, that that was nothing compared to watching me fall apart from the disease of alcoholism, the physical nature when it finally takes us down, which it has done pretty much for each and every one of us, I'm sure. So I had to go away, and I went away, and my last 5.5, 6 years of federal prison, I spent down at Eglin Air Force Base teaching tennis to a bunch of lieutenant colonels and a base commander of the federal prison camp that they knew my whole story. They knew every move I had made. They loved it. They wanted to know everything. They thought it was just unbelievable. I said, yeah, but what about my wife and my daughter, who are still waiting for me? And I got more educated. I got another degree while I was there, worked on another degree while I was there, but had a great time at Eglin Air Force. Met all the politicians that went down, met all kinds of bankers, all kinds of people that did things that, like I did, that they shouldn't have done because they didn't know why they did it. But when I came out of the federal prison in 1994, I was sent back to, I came back to Louisville, Kentucky. My wife had not left me. And I got into business right away with family, friends. And as I said earlier, I was successful in everything I've ever done. I'm going to go back and reiterate one thing. When I got sentenced in January or November of 1987, my parents were out in Scottsdale, Arizona, and they did not know one thing that had happened to me. My in-laws did, because two of them were down with us many times. We had a beautiful place in North Miami Beach, Florida, on the water. And I had to call my mom and dad, let them know that I was going to be going away. Natalie was just born, and mom had been out there for the birth and then went back to Scottsdale. And I didn't even need into that conversation 10, 15 seconds. And my mother stopped it right there. She said, Curtis, let me stop it here. This is all part of God's plan for you. One day you'll understand it. For now, we want to let you know that we will help Natalie and Tina Jo and Natalie Marie. We'll do the best we can, Ben, to be there for, but we're going to be with you. But we want you to know that this is all part of God's plan for you. And I said to my mother, I said, what a plan, Mom. I said, I didn't understand. But as I went away to federal prison and I spent my time there, and I got, as I said, I had a wonderful time while I was there. It wasn't wonderful for my wife and daughter, but 8 years of traveling twice a month down to see Dad. For the first 4 years, it was my daughter thought I was, in school. But then we had to tell her the truth, and she was okay with that. But that's still to today is something that it had to have been captured and talked about, which we've done. But coming out of federal prison in 1994, now what am I going to do? But again, I got successful in whatever I did. It didn't matter. A marketing sales guy. I came out and got into business with a good friend of mine, Rick Roby, that was a big basketball player here in Kentucky. And we had Walmart vendor numbers. I became successful in business with him, but I was never content. We worked with that for a couple of years. I'm going to leave. I'm going to start something else. Got into a big import business out of South Vietnam and Thailand. We were importing fabrics. I was traveling the world at the same time. Big time business, big time drinking. Didn't matter where I was at. Even as a convicted felon, I held government contracts. I would travel out to Arlington, Virginia, speak in DC. I had retroreflective lighting and retroreflective different types of fabrics and interior lighting for Abrams tanks. It just went on and on and on and on. And never content with whatever I was doing. Never physically hurting anybody, but mentally hurting everyone, because I didn't know, because it was still all about me. And then when it finally began, and I started to fall apart, probably in around 2004 or 5, when the disease took over. When you drink a half pint, to throw that up before you drink the next pint. And then you drink another pint, and then you wait a couple hours and you do the same thing over and over. And it was the physical aspect, the physical nature of alcoholism that took me down. And it was the best thing, the greatest thing that ever happened to me. Because without that moment, I wouldn't be where I am here today, talking with you people and truthfully saying to you, contingent on the daily maintenance of my spiritual conditioning, my life cannot be any better than it is right now at this moment. And I'm thankful for that. But there was a long road of reconstruction in it, and that finally in 2009, Tina had just had enough. I'd been, a couple of the detoxes 2-3 times, and I'll be okay. I'll try to stop now. Last a few days, last a week, couldn't do it. Didn't know why. Knew nothing about AA. Had a neighbor, an attorney that was in AA, but he said, "Man, have you ever tried AA?" I said, "No." Then he gave me a little bit of an introduction, but once I got to the healing place, when the door was shut, I had a 0.485 alcohol limit. I drank about a quart of moonshine that I got from a neighbor. Drank a whole bunch of ant poison and tried to kill myself, and it didn't work. And I ended up in the gutter, right where I needed to be. And God kept me and said, "Curtis, we're not done with you yet." So I spent 7 months at the men's healing place, and I began to get the taste of AA, and I began to learn. And I met guys like Tim and Don and the different people in AA. And for almost into the first 4 years, I was good. I still wasn't where I was supposed to be. When I went in at 56, so you're talking about somebody, I've seen all the millions of dollars. I've seen it all. I've been in all these countries. I've been in all the jungles. I've done everything you could ever imagine. But I wasn't okay yet. And I was sitting in an AA meeting, and a couple old timers ran about 24 girls out of a meeting they were from the women's healing place. One of them had talked something about drugs, and they told them to get the F out of there. And I didn't know how to handle that situation. I walked out with them. I was mad, but it was just an excuse. Next year and a half was the worst year and a half of my life. I didn't know why, but I know why now today, because I stepped away from the program of Alcoholics Anonymous that had shown me the way. It gave me the map, and it gave me the treasure, and I didn't know I had it. So for the next year and a half, and I've been sitting on the board of the men's healing place. I sat on the board of one of our other recovery houses, the Talbot House, that my sponsor was the president of the board. Helped a lot of fellows, did all this and that. And I had to call Tim and say, "Tim, I'm going to walk away. I'm going to step away for a while." He says, "Curtis, we'll be waiting for you." And about a year and a half later, I made the call. And I was lost. And that wasn't a big drunk fest this time. There was some drinking, but it hadn't taken me to that element. It took me to the spiritual element. I was lost. The part that really needed the fixing, not the drinking, not the drugging or whatever we do, or the thinking. It was the spiritual malady. And I called Tim and I said, "I've got to get back in the rooms." He said, "Curtis, we've been waiting for you." He said, "Big book studies this afternoon." Big book study that still to the day has been going on in his office for 29 years. Some of those men are on here tonight. Men that stand behind each other. We stand in each other and stand up for each other, and we go through the pain and suffering of life together. The fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous, the greatest fellowship I've ever seen in my life, sitting on this screen tonight. There's not one person that my prayers and sympathy don't go to tonight, praying that you get the message, to get the hope, to retain what you have today, to carry on and be the best you can be tomorrow. So I walked back in the rooms, and I got in the middle of it, right in the middle of that circle where that triangle exists, where my grand sponsor Don talks about, Tim talks about, the recovery, unity, and service, right in the middle to keep me active, to keep the drunk in front of me at all times. And I began to learn, and boy, did I learn. And I've learned so much. The last 2 years have been phenomenal in my spiritual ability of really understanding why I'm here today, why I'm here tonight. And it's the ability to understand where that power resides, that God of my understanding. The fellow I talked about, Richard Rohr, says that Alcoholics Anonymous, and Richard he wrote a book. If you've never read or never looked at, look up the book Breathing Underwater by Father Richard Rohr, R-O-H-R. 12 steps of spiritual living. He believes we're the people that have been handpicked, kind of like what the guy Jesus did, picking the drunks, the prostitutes, the people off the street. We're the most vulnerable. We're the most susceptible. We're the ones most in need. We're the ones that will listen, right? Because we have nowhere else to go. And then the miracle happens. The magic occurs and the transformation takes part. And Rohr goes on to say that I don't have time to get into his story, but it's a phenomenal story when he really diagnosed and went through Bill Wilson and Dr. Bob in the writing of the 12 steps. And he believes today that the American way of Alcoholics Anonymous will be the guide to worldwide spirituality given to the 20th century. That makes me feel believable that we, as a bunch of drunks, have been given this type of recognition. And it truly is today, because it doesn't matter if I'm working in the rooms or wherever we're at. See, as we as human beings, as we go through our day, you know, we live on about 20,000 breaths a day. I think it's 100,000 heartbeats, 3.5 billion heartbeats in your lifetime. I mean, the numbers are unbelievable. So if you're having, you know, when I think of those numbers and I look and I think about stuff like that, it's phenomenal that I'm even alive. But then go back and think, how did we even get here? The miracle of birth, the two most important days in life that I recognize today, the day my mom and dad, I was conceived into this universe by this creator, and where I'm at today. And I can honestly say today that I'm in a really good position with myself, contingent on that daily maintenance of my spiritual conditioning that the big book talks about, to be in a mode of love and tolerance, to being able to accept what you do. What I have to understand is your way of thinking or your way of doing, and be able to be a guide, to be of help to other people, to be the best person I can be to my wife of almost 39 years now, my daughter and her husband, and these two grandkids that I have. One just turns 9 next month, one just turned 7. I'll conclude with a story on that in just a minute. But the gift that we've been given here in Alcoholics Anonymous goes way beyond the little part of the drinking and the drugging or the thinking problem. That wasn't our problem. The problem was Curtis. It was evident now that I look back. We never shut the door on the back past, or shut the door on. We never shut the door on the past. Because what I did back there, I didn't know. But today I know the difference. And now I've been given this God, this ability to be this way. My grand sponsor says God has given us a pattern, this big pattern. This is what we try to do. We try to figure everything out, and there's nothing to figure out. Don says God gives us a pattern. Our job is to do the stitching, one stitch at a time. Now, what is a dang stitch? Doesn't have to be any more than a stitch, because we cannot configure or do anything more than where we're at this present moment. And when we're living in God's consciousness, is in the presence of this power greater than myself. When I ask to make decisions now, I go to make a decision, I always go within my own inner self and I say, what would the master do? What does that power want me to do? What does God want me to do? How would God treat me? Or how would God treat that person? You know, and these are not things that normal people, I don't think about. I don't know. But this is what I've learned from you people through the 6th and 7th steps, all the character defects that we ask to be taken away, but they're probably never going to go away. We certainly know what they are. And then we go to the 9th step promises, and it says we will intuitively know how to handle situations that used to baffle us. So our decision making and our thinking has to change. And it has to change towards this mode and this feeling of love and acceptability of everything that there is, no matter what it is. The world's in turmoil right now. I'm not. I have my thoughts and my decisions and where my stands or where I see things, but it's about as far as I'm going to go with it, because I can't take me out of the element that has me to where I am today. And that's here and now. It's you people on this screen tonight on Christmas Day, December 25th, 2021. Facing another year of whatever, it doesn't matter. And if you're struggling with life today, I can tell you that life will be a whole lot better when we begin to release ourselves. There was another old timer that passed on before I even got to meet him physically, but I was given his tape from my sponsor. Then was the fish man. The fish man says, when you put your hand in God's hand, God will figure it out for you. I mean, God will work it out before you figure it out. I don't have much more to figure out today, other than to be loving and tolerant to all of God's children and all people, and to be a part of this program of Alcoholics Anonymous, to carry a message of hope, not only for myself, but for each and every one of us. Because I know as I get older and we face different issues, in health issues and this and that, we have to have that fear but that fear can be alleviated. It can be dissipated. It can be taken care of us the minute we get outside of that self. Remember, we generate the thought. Thoughts have to be generated. God has me in a whole different way of life right now. I don't have to think about the pities or the poor me's. I have to be more concerned about the yous. I'm going to close with two things real quick. Phil, last February 23rd, this was a tough Christmas for us. For 9 years, my mother-in-law lived with us. She was 91 years old. And last December, right after Christmas, all three of us came down with COVID. And I didn't get sick. My wife got sick and my mother-in-law got sick. And I was the mule. I had to get all the liquids for them, and they were fine. They came out of it after about a week. A lot of different liquids that they had to take, and we had finally got grandma to get an infusion, and that kept her alive. But she came out of that. She was really good. A very angelic, spiritual woman, oldest of 12, or second oldest of 12 children. She had lived with us for 9 years, and my wife was her baby, and they had such a relationship. And last February 23rd, we were downstairs at our beautiful house, big walkout basement. We had finished the basement in the house when we built the house so that grandma could have a beautiful kitchen and live with us. And, you know, she was just such an angel to the whole family. All these the families of her brothers and sisters that were deceased, they continually came to see her. But she was fixing her famous liver and onions and cabbage for us, and she was feeding some liver to my golden retriever Buckaroo, and we're down in the basement just kidding around, having a great time. And I made a comment about her hair. I said, Grandma, you need to get Vicki Lynn over here, get your hair fixed. And she kind of laughed. She said, Curtis, nobody's going to see me for a while. It doesn't matter. We're laughing. And we're talking away. Tina's doing the dishes, and I watched Grandma. That's what I called her. Her name's Doris. And she laid her head back, and I watched her mouth open up, and I watched God take her by the hand. Now, I've seen people that shot out of the sky. I've seen people killed everywhere that you can imagine, the alleys, the jungles. It doesn't matter. We've seen it. We've experienced. I've never seen anything like I saw. I saw God take my mother-in-law by the hand. We got her on the ground and we tried to give her some resuscitation, but it didn't help. She stayed alive for 4 hours. But Tina looked at me and she said, God took Mom. I said, He's got her. And she stayed alive so that my daughter, Natalie Marie, could get down to the hospital. Drove 4 hours from Columbus to get down here. And that was something else, because I really saw something. I saw the light. I saw the spark. Don talks about the divine spark within. And that was something else. But I'm going to end with this story. A couple of years ago, I told you about my grandkids. Grace and Matthew turns 9 January 30th of this year. And Hadley Marie turned 6 December 14th, just here recently. And two of the greatest grandkids. And I was up in Columbus, Ohio, visiting. And my father-in-law's come up to me and he said, Curtis, I got to tell you something. I said, what's that, Steve? Now, Steve's a good Baptist guy. He's never drank, never drugged, never done anything. And he walks up to me and said, I got to tell you something. He said, you know, those two grandkids, they talk about you more than anybody I've ever heard in my whole life. I said, no, come on, Steve. They talk about you all the time. I said, no. He says, no, they talk about their pappy all the time. And it just made me feel so good. He said, looked at me, he said, I think it's that AA stuff. And I just chuckled. My heart lit up. About a month later, they were down visiting my daughter and my husband and my grandkids. And we're having dinner upstairs at the big table, and Grandma had made chicken for us all, and we're eating away. And at the other end of the table is this little 4-year-old girl, and she's already got alcoholism. I can tell it. I've got her pre-planned. I can just see it. And she's a living doll, and she's eating her chicken. She looks up and she goes, "Hey, Pappy, you going to one of those meetings tonight?" And I looked down, and I looked all around the table. I looked everybody in the eye. I wanted to see what they were looking at, and they were all looking at me. And I said, yeah, Hattie Marie, Pappy's going to go to one of those meetings tonight. Because no matter where we're at, whether I'm up in Columbus or they're in Louisville or Disney, Mexico, or Orange Beach, it doesn't matter. I find a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. Because it's you people that have shown me to be where I am today. She goes, okay. And she just shook her head and started eating. 30 seconds later, her little brother, 2 years older, Grayson Matthew, we just went to Nassau summer school. It was unbelievable for this guy. And he looks up at me. He says, hey, Pappy. He's looking at me. And he's kind of looking at me. He says, what do you guys do with those meetings? Now, he wanted to know what we do with these meetings. And I looked at Grayson. I looked around the table, and I had tears coming out of my eyes. And I said, Grayson, Matthew, this is where Grammys and Pappies, where we go and learn how to be Grammys and Pappies. And he looked at me, and he nodded his head, and he pointed at me, and he told me, keep doing that, Pappy. That's Alcoholics Anonymous, the program, the fellowship, the message that we carry inside and outside of the rooms. Again, Merry Christmas to all. My name is Curtis Johnson. I'm an alcoholic.